If you don't know, I'm Jess Dombrowski. So I work in the USA Rugby membership department. So most of us have probably called, emailed, or spoken to each other a couple of times. And if you're on the call today, we're going to be going over the new Rugby Explorer membership registration system and essentially what that all entails. And it's going to be tailored to you as club administrators and essentially how you'll be able to kind of administrate your club through the system and what that setup is going to look like. So just a few things. First and foremost, a lot of this information has been covered on previous calls. So if you have been on previous calls, it's probably going to be a lot of the same. We're just going to go a little bit more in depth on how to set up to collect individual payments through the system for your club dues, and as well as the Stripe onboarding process for collecting those payments as a payment processor. So if you've been on a call, it's going to be a lot of the same information. So don't panic. We're just going to go a little bit more in depth in certain areas. Additionally, I have a presentation for you. I'm going to do a presentation, go into the system, kind of show you a little bit, and then go back and kind of go through things a little bit more in depth. So if you have questions as we're going through, I have my coworker, Jamie McGregor with the Training and Education Department. He's on here. He'll be answering questions via chat. So if you just want to put any questions through to that, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end as well. Again, this will be recorded and it will be sent out if you would like a copy of it as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to get started. All right. Perfect. All right, so Rugby Explorer. Rugby Explorer, or RX as I'll be referring to it, is our new registration management system. So this is what replacing Sport Lomo for the new season. And this is where all of your coaches, players, administrators, anyone that's playing rugby is going to go and utilize this software to register to. What is it? It's an app-based as well as a web-based. So there will be an app that you can download for registration purposes. So if you're on the go, if you're a coach, administrator, player, it'll be easy to go ahead and get through that process when you're not necessarily at a desktop computer. It has an integrated competition management system. So it entails, roster selection, live scoring. You'll be able to kind of see other teams' rosters and follow up on different games. There's an additional app for that as well. So if you wanted to, keep track of what one of your favorite teams is doing throughout the season, you can do so as well. Additionally, I want to just double emphasize and put a lot of emphasis on the ease of registration through the system. So it is very user-friendly, which I know we can all appreciate, which also plays into the fact that it is app-based and has that functionality as well, as that is the way that society is moving and makes it a little bit easier for everyone involved. And last but not least, we know that compliance checking, both for individuals and clubs, have been a little bit difficult in the years past. So this system has everything tied together. So if you're a coach and you register and you're missing something, you're going to get a little nag for it. Similarly to if you're a club administrator, if you haven't paid those club registration fees, or you don't have a coach that has the right criteria to be in compliance, or you're missing the required number of players, it's going to give you all of those additional nags and remind you to get that taken care of so that you are in full compliance for the season. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the RX functionality. And with that, first and foremost, what you're going to do is when this goes live, you'll be making a Rugby Explorer account. So essentially, all of your information will be loaded onto your personal account, and you'll go into this account every season to go ahead and get registered. This will be done through your personal information. So even though you're a club administrator, your Rugby Explorer account will be linked to your personal Gmail, Yahoo address, whatever that might be. And that's because we can then grant you as an individual administrator access. So you won't need to keep track of separate club administration details. If you're a club admin and a conference admin, you won't need to remember 3 different passwords or anything like that. It's all going to be tied through your personal account. And again, as I had mentioned, registration will be available both through the app and the website, and you'll be able to use your administrator privileges on both of those features. Another quick thing to note is all of your previous information, your historical registrations, your historical coaching credentials, all of that is going to be loaded into the system for you. So you don't need to worry about, bringing any of that information from previous systems over. We're handling that for you. So when you first go in to create an account, all of that information is going to be right there and find you in the system. So once you do create that profile, it's going to look very similar to this page right here. If I were to scroll down, obviously it's a screenshot. You'll see my registration history. You'll see what kind of coaching credentials that I have. You'll see right here on the top, if I haven't completed a safe sport screening or a background check, it's going to let me know exactly what is needed. Using this register option, that's how I would go through to register each year. You'd be able to, again, if you've been given those administrator privileges, select that admin portal option, and that's going to switch you into the back end of the system. So again, once you log into your individual account, if you are an administrator, you've been given those privileges, and then it's just going to take you right into the back end. So it's a single sign-on. You don't have to worry about keeping track of any of that additional information. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch over into our testing environment real quick. And this is going to look just slightly different than what the live environment will look like. You'll notice that it's pink across the top. Our live environment will be a nice navy blue once it goes live. But I wanted to give you guys an idea of what some populated club data would look like when you're logged in as a club administrator. So if you take a look in the upper left-hand corner, I'm logged in as a club admin for Angola Rugby Club. I do have a couple of other administrator privileges that I've been granted, so I can easily toggle back and forth between these if I have more than one. But for right now, we're just going to log in as a club. So you'll see kind of the main dashboard on the home screen. Those 3 lines right across the top are all of those things that are required to be in compliance for the competitive season. So you'll see that I've paid my club registration fee. I don't have a coach that has met the qualifications or criteria to be a compliant coach, and I have met those minimum number of players. So you'll see right across the top that those 3 things are what's required to be in compliance. And if you don't have something, you're going to see a nice red X, and you'll be able to kind of get that taken care of. Additionally, you can see a breakdown of the different registration types that you have, when people are mostly registering, just kind of a general overview of how your club actually operates. You'll also notice there's a couple different toolbar options on the left-hand side. We're just going to do a brief overview of these right now, but when I switch back into my presentation, we'll go into these in a little bit more depth. So you've got different ways to do club administration. When you set up your payment settings to take payments and link your Stripe account, that'll be done through here. A couple of different options for member management. As we mentioned, the competition management system is linked all in through one system, and you'll be able to kind of access all of this information once you've been granted those admin permissions. Additionally, it's important to note that once you have been granted administrator permissions, you can also grant them to anybody else at your level or a level below. So if I'm the president and I've been given administrator permissions and I want to give that to our treasurer and our secretary and maybe our recruiting chair, whatever that might look like, you can give these yourself to someone else. So you won't necessarily have to send me an email every single time you want to add someone on as an administrator. There is no limit to how many individuals you can add. However, we do usually recommend maybe no more than 1 to 3, just because the more people that get into that system, they can update your information, and sometimes it gets a little bit messier year in and year out. You'll also be able to pull different reports so you can see who has administrator permissions for your club. So let's just say, you're a college program, you've got your outgoing board 1 year and only one person has it moving forward. You can remove those other individuals that are no longer affiliated with your program, just to keep all of that as clean and as organized as possible. And as the system gets set up, we have the club lists that have been submitted to us by your college conferences and your geographic unions. They will be set into the system and set up. And once those are live, then they will be giving you those administrator permissions first and foremost. And then again, you can add whoever else you would like to into the system. So as I mentioned, there's that nice large toolbar on the left-hand side of the screen. One of those options is the My Club Details. So this is where you would go. You can upload a team logo if you'd like, or maybe a college logo. You can enter in your club address. This is pre-populated via Google, so you can find that and link that as well. You'll be able to update additional contacts for your club. You'll have that compliance tab, as we mentioned, so you can see what is actually required for the new season. It's kind of a nice general overview, so you can see everything that as it pertains to your specific program. You can update, because you'll have access to this, you can update it as frequently as you would like, as we do know that things change from time to time. So as I mentioned, you'd be able to add in the contacts for your club. So, maybe that's me, Justin Browski, I'm the club president. I also want to add our treasurer, and I also want to add our, recruitment chair. You can add as many of these individuals as you would like. And what's going to happen is this is what's going to kind of flow into our public facing website, so that if an individual were to search for your program, I'm searching for the Colorado Grey Wolves, they're going to see my name and the email that has been listed there to go ahead and reach out to us to ask about practice times or whatever the season might look like. So even though your Rugby Explorer or RX account is linked to your individual email, you can go ahead and add in your general, administrator email to this contact one, because that's what's going to be feeding through. And if people are reaching out to your club, we want to make sure that they're going directly to your club and not necessarily your personal inbox. So again, we do have the compliance tab. So you've got the 3 requirements right here at the top. The very nice thing is the club registration fee. We know this has been a bit confusing in years past. It's all listed right here that if this was unpaid, you can go ahead and select that pay fee option to get that taken care of all in one screen. Additionally, you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner, right now we have a breakdown of what those fees will look like. So USA Rugby has a $50 club registration fee. It looks like right here, American College Rugby has added $10. The College Council collects $20. Plus you have that pesky little processing fee. So you would be paying that $83.16 total, and that would be split out directly at the point of sale. So you don't have to worry about anything other than just making sure that that fee is paid for the current season. But again, you'll be able to see a breakdown so you know exactly where all of that money is going. So additionally, if you're a club administrator on this call, you've expressed interest in collecting payments through the system. So the important part for that is that in order to do so, you'll need to link your entity or your club's banking information. So we'll be doing this through Stripe, which is our third-party payment processor. So as soon as you are in the system with your account and you've been given your admin permissions, you'll be able to log in at the club level and onboard Stripe with your banking information. So I won't go through the actual onboarding process right now, but I will be sending out a video that will assist in this process as well, just if you do have additional questions. But some good things to note, and if you want to take note of this on the call, we'll also be sending this out after the fact, but this is all of the information that you would need to go ahead and set that up. So for example, we would need your legal business name, your employer identification number, whatever your registered business address is. Essentially anything that you need in regards to banking is going to be needed for the Stripe onboarding process if you're looking to take those payments through the system. So I do recommend that when you do get into the system and you're going to go through this process, make sure that you have all of this information in hand before you start. It can take anywhere from 7 to maybe 13 minutes. So it's a pretty quick process as long as you've got all this information right off the bat. So just make sure that if you are going to be utilizing the collecting payments feature, just have this ready to go so that once you're in the system, we can get you onboarded with Stripe. All right, so we do have a couple of different registration settings that can be selected at the club level. So again, you as club admins will have the ability to kind of govern however you guys operate. So we do have 3 different options. The default option is that historical player pays option. So that's me, I'm a player, I've gone into the app, I've gone through the registration process, updated all of my details, I pull out my credit card, pay for my registration, and then boom, I'm ready to go. You also have the ability to set the auto payment feature. So what this means is you as a club admin, you would load your entity's card onto the system. And essentially, if me as a player goes in to register, I'd go through the process. Instead of pulling out my own credit card to pay for it, I would get to the end and then your club card would be charged for my registration. So let's just say you have a sponsor or you have, a athletics association or something like that that's looking to cover those dues each time someone registers, you can load this into the system and that will automatically be charged for that player registration. Similarly, you can also do a manual payment option, which is very similar to that second one that we just did, but instead of automatically charging each registration, you'll just get a monthly invoice to go ahead and pay that via check, via card, whatever you so choose. So you have a couple different options. You can choose these as a club admin. The default, again, is that player pays, but you can change these back and forth as many times as you'd like to throughout the season. Maybe your fall season operates a little differently from spring, 7s, 15s, whatever that looks like. You have complete flexibility to change this as you so desire. So again, that entity card that you would kind of load into the system, there's a couple different functions that you can utilize this for. So it is required if you want to do that auto payment for club registrations. Additionally, if you are collecting dues through the system, you'll need to load a card as well, so that when players go in and request a refund, that actually has a place to be refunded from. If you wanted to add different discounts, maybe you were covering someone specifically for their registration, it would be pulled from this card as well. And one thing I have not yet mentioned is that Rugby Explorer, the system and all of the clubs with it will get a free website. So you do have an ability to kind of upgrade that website to a more pro subscription, but we'll cover all of that more in depth at a later date as well. Okay. So again, if you're looking to collect individual fees through the system, you would need to set these up once you have administrator access. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through this at a little bit more in depth than maybe you've seen in the past. And to do so, I'm going to just switch back into our testing system. So just give me a moment to do so. So for that, I'm going to go under payment settings and payment settings again. And we're going to add a payment setting. So this is the screen that you would see when you're looking to kind of set up those individual fees that you're collecting. You'll see across the top, you've got your registration type. This is going to be tailored to whatever your club is. So if you're a youth and high school club, you're going to see something a little different than college. If you're college, you're going to see different than senior. So it's going to be tailored specifically to you. So obviously right now I'm kind of logged in under a youth and high school team. So it's going to look a little different in a testing environment. Duration season is going to be pre-populated, and that's going to be our default because, as you know, our season runs from September 1st to August 31st every year. And that's how our registrations are set up. You'll also see the allows conversion sign on the far right-hand side. So essentially what this is you, again, will have the ability to change this depending on how you operate as a club admin. But if you're charging $10 for a player, $20 for a coach, do you want that individual, if they're registering as both a player and a coach, do you want them to pay the $10 and the $20, or do you want them to just pay that most expensive fee once? So if you'd like to allow conversions, they'll pay that most expensive fee once. If you don't, and you want to make sure that they're charging each individual fee, then you can select that no option as well. And again, you can change this throughout the season should you choose. So for right now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and set one up right now. So we've got our registration type listed as youth. We're going to go ahead and select player because we want to maybe charge our youth players a certain amount of money. You'll notice that there is the age restrictions. This is a required field to fill out. So for youth players, let's just say they're maybe aged 8 to 17. These have been set at the levels above you. So, you know, your college conference would have set it, the council level would have set it, and USA Rugby would have set it. So it's important to note that whatever has been set above you, you won't be able to set anything outside of those parameters. So if USA Rugby has ages, you know, 8 to 15 and I add 8 to 17,
excuse me,
it's going to automatically kind of tailor that back down so that you will never be able to go outside of what's been set above you. So it trickles from the top down. So if you are interested in knowing what those restrictions are, I encourage you to reach out to your conference or your council level, whatever is applicable to you. For right now, we're just going to go ahead and continue with the youth player. So let's say we want to add $10 per player. We're going to hit this little plus sign to add it into our bucket below. And then we would go back and we would continue to add any other fees. So maybe we want to add, you know, a coach could be aged 18 to, let's just say 99. And we want to charge our coaches $20. So we're going to add that into the bucket. It's important to always click this plus sign so that it actually kind of gets added into your cart below before you hit save. If you forget to hit the plus sign and then hit save, you're going to have to go back and redo all of that information again. So just always make sure you're actually adding it into the bucket. So right now we've got our players set to $10, our coach fee set to $20. We're going to just save that. And obviously, again, if you haven't onboarded to Stripe, you'll receive a little nag at the bottom that tells you that you have to finalize your banking process so that if you are collecting fees, there is a place for those fees to go. So you won't be able to collect fees until you've linked your bank account. So once you get into the system, that should be the first thing that you're doing if you're looking to utilize collecting payments through the system. I'm going to switch back over here. Just going to make sure we're caught up. Looks like we are. Perfect. Okay, so again, once you set these fees, these are going to be automatically be added as part of that registration process for the individuals. So once you go through the process, you'll see a registration summary on the right-hand side, like you'll see here. Right now, obviously, these are all set as $0 amounts, but as you add in additional fees and they're added for tiers above you, you'll be able to see a breakdown of where all of those fees are going. So I register as a player, you know, I could see exactly what I'm paying to my club, what I'm paying to my state organization or college conference, GU, whatever that looks like, as well as the council, and then as well as that national level. It's going to give you a nice breakdown at the bottom and give you that total. And again, all of that is going to be split out directly at the point of payment. So there's nothing that you need to worry about other than just getting in there and getting registered. Custom questions. All right, I'm actually going to switch back into this one as well. So custom questions. So each tier underneath USA Rugby has the ability to ask up to 3 customized individual questions. You know, maybe you want to know if a player has all-star experience, how they found rugby, you know, maybe someone if they've coached before, or you just want to know their favorite color or jersey size, whatever that looks like. You can ask up to 3 of these. These can be multiple choice. They can be open-ended questions. You can add in a specific link to like send someone out to a different survey if you have additional information that you want to collect. You can also tailor this to specific registration roles. So, you know, if you just want a player that's registering with your team to answer something versus you want a coach to answer something different, you can kind of tailor all of that through the custom questions field. And then this, again, you can make this a required part of the registration process so that when individuals go to register to your club, this is going to pop up for them as part of that process. So the reason that we have it limited to 3 is that as our, tree or our tiered structure gets up to 6 layers deep, that potentially adds up to 18 questions for a member's registration process. And we want to make sure that members are getting in and out of that system and that process as quickly and efficiently as possible, while having a great user experience as well. Additionally, if there are the tiers above you, if they have set fees themselves or questions themselves, you'll be able to see what these questions are. So just in case, the Youth and High School Council wants to know, how did you find out about rugby? You know that you don't have to ask that question as well because it's already been asked from the tiers above you. So again, you'll be able to get all of this information when someone goes through the registration process, and you can pull a report that's going to have all of that as well. Accreditations or coaching certifications or credentials, however you want to put it. Again, all of these are going to be loaded into the system from your historical records, so you won't have to do anything about that on your own. But again, as club administrators, we know it's been a bit tough in the past to make sure that all of your coaches are in compliance. If you're a conference administrator, making sure that all of your teams have the right qualified coaches on the sidelines, whatever that looks like. Rugby Explorer has a very easy system to go ahead and check that. So I've got a brief little screenshot right here at the bottom. That was a report that I pulled. So you can search for members that are currently registered within your program, maybe registered members that are expired. For this one specifically, I looked for members that are currently registered as a coach that have the credential, both a background check and Safe Sport. And you can pull that report so you can see who has what credentials, maybe some you can pull who's missing certain credentials. Maybe you want to do a Safe Sport week where you just pull everyone that doesn't have Safe Sport, send out a push to them to get it taken care of. You can kind of add different combinations of those accreditations to search and pull for those. And all of that can be pulled again easily through a report that you as an administrator will have access to follow up on. And again, if you are registered as a coach or referee when you're logged into your profile, if you don't have one of these, there's going to be that little nag across the top. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone if they find out that they are missing something or something's going to expire soon. Communications. Through Rugby Explorer, you'll be able to send email communications to your club. You can do so by, again, tailoring to, a specific membership type, a specific age range, whatever that looks like. And you can reach out to members that are currently registered. Maybe you can reach out to the members that haven't been registered for this year. If you want to find someone that expired and reach out to, that group and kind of give them a push to get registered for this year, you can sort of tailor that however you would like. And this is all done through the system. And you would just enter in your email subject, the information or email content that you like, and you can just very easily send that out directly through the system. So again, if you wanted to pull that kind of coaching credential report for people that are missing a Safe Sport or background screening, you could then go ahead and communicate that to them through this part of the system. Similarly, as it is an app, we do have the ability to also do push notifications. So the process would be the exact same. You could tailor that information to whatever demographic you're looking to reach out to. And instead of that going to an email, that would just send a push notification to anyone that has the app downloaded to their phone. So, maybe it's a couple hours before practice time and I want to say, hey, don't forget to bring your mouth guards. Looks like it might be raining, or, bring a buddy tonight, whatever that is. You can send that out through a push notification, and that's going to go directly to an individual's cell phone if they have the app downloaded. As we know, not everyone always checks their emails at every point during the day. So as I briefly mentioned earlier, Rugby Explorer does give all of their clubs a free website. So this is just kind of a brief overview of how you'd be able to tailor that. You could link all of your different social pages, but all of your supporters, alumni, maybe avid parents and fans for your team or program, they could follow along on the website. This is where they could go to look up your competitions. They could see how you guys have been doing throughout the season, a link to register. All of that information would kind of be in this one place. But again, if you're interested in utilizing this free feature, we'll be going over that at a later date. And again, you can always upgrade to the pro subscription, which again, we will go over later. Competition management. So the Rugby Explorer, it is that registration system that we've kind of gone through for you as administrators, but it does have the integrated competition management system, which will be new this year. This will be replacing the previously known CMS or USARugbyStats.com that some of you might be familiar with. The importance to note is that because it is an integrated system, it's going to be able to pull all of those like registered and compliant members. So you won't necessarily be able to set your rosters with individuals that don't meet the requirements or criteria. So through the system, you can set your rosters for each of your weekend's games. You can have your multiple teams playing in multiple competitions, depending on how your organization or your conferences operate. You can add in scores and do live scoring. Again, this would feed through the Rugby Matchday app, which is a separate app from the registration app. So if I'm an avid supporter of the Savannah Shamrocks and I want to follow along on their team, I could look them up on the app. I could see what their schedule is and what that competition is and see that, hey, Jess Dombrowski, she scored a try within the first 10 minutes and then there was a substitution, and you can follow along through the teams of a live part of the game. Additionally, competition cases we're very excited about. So this has the ability to track different things that happen throughout matches. Maybe you have a player that's gotten a red card, someone got into a scuffle, they came off the field with a bit of a head injury, whatever that looks like, you can create a competition case for that. And you can follow this up with your judiciary panels, with your conference administrators, whoever that might look like. And again, you could be able to also set the player's availability for that as well. So perhaps, I was a little cheeky during my match. I got a red card. I'm no longer eligible to play for 1 week to be added to a roster. So that can be updated in the system so that I am no longer eligible to be selected for any team's roster until that availability date comes through. So it gives you a nice, easy way to make sure that not only are you making sure all of your players are registered and actually eligible to be playing, making sure that your coaches that have been added to that roster have met that safe sport background screening coaching criteria, but also as long as someone is available to be added to the roster, then they are good to go as well. So a brief little overview of kind of that squad management roster selection that I was talking about. You'll have your club set up in the systems, and then you'll be able to set up your teams. Maybe your club has a men and women's side, an A side, a B side, whatever that might look like. You'll be able to add in the members that have registered to your club to those teams. And this is where you'd be able to pull from the rosters as well. On a week in, week out basis, you'll be able to update the rosters. You'll be able to update jersey numbers. Maybe your team has lost the number 17 jersey or the number 9 jersey no longer is around. You can update that accordingly depending on what you have. And you'll be able to keep a historical record of all of this information as well. So as I mentioned, there is the Rugby Matchday app, which is separate from the registration app, obviously 2 different processes. So if you were utilizing this feature, you could download the app and you can stand there on the sidelines and you'd be able to live score those games. So you'll see a brief little screenshot on the right-hand side. You can see I have an upcoming match. Excuse me. I have an upcoming match. You can see the place, the time, the teams that are competing. If you were to click into that and the team had roster set, you could see the roster for both teams in that competition. You can also see a previous record of, how my team has done against other competitors and actually see a live kind of feed of that game. So I could see who scored tries, when a substitution occurred, if there were cards. You'd be able to actually see all of that information in a one-stop shop on the Rugby Matchday app. So you as a club administrator, you will obviously have access to this, but the best part again is you'll be able to grant access to anyone that you would like to utilize this feature as well. So maybe you have a parent volunteer that wants to help score your game for 1 weekend, or maybe you've got a team manager or someone else willing to help out for the next couple of weeks. You can grant and take away those permissions at any time, depending on what your situation looks like. So I know I just kind of breezed through quite a bit of the Rugby Explorer system, from registration all the way over to competition management. We went through how to collect payments and get your Stripe information onboarded to have your banking information linked. The system will be live starting next week, but in the meantime, we do have a couple quick little resources for you. So if you want to take a look at the kind of Rugby Explorer or RX documents that we have already prepared, you can go to this website right here. As always, you can reach out to us at USA Rugby. We have the generic membership@usa.rugby email. I know most of you have my email. I'll share that in the chat as well if you have specific questions, specific situations, if you just want an overview of this. This call has been recorded, so we'll be able to send that out. We will also be sending out a list of, frequently asked questions that have popped up on these calls. So if there's a question that maybe you don't want to ask, you haven't seen it come through, we'll add that in there as well. And above that, we'll be sure to include videos on how to do some of the requirements to get your clubs set up, as well as just, the how-to step-by-step to get you in the system, set up your account. And once that's been done, you'll be granted those administrator permissions from your kind of parent organization, whether that's your college conference, your geographic union, your council, whatever that might look like. So with that kind of completes my part of the presentation. I'm going to open up the chat and let anyone else, if you have last minute lingering questions, go ahead and put those in right now, and we'll try and get through those as quickly as we can. If not, I do appreciate you guys being on here and participating in the call. I know we had a nice smaller group, so hopefully this was beneficial. All in all, we're just very excited about Rugby Explorer coming on board, and very much look forward to getting onto the field with you guys for the 22-23 competition season.